Hello, and welcome back to my channel, April Thrift Art. In today's video, I want to share with you a story that I read from the book Infinite Purpose. The book is by Liv Lane and Lori Portka. And this story really has me thinking. I've thought a lot about it over the past few days since I first read it. I've read it a couple of times since then, just because every time I read it, I gain even more insight from this story. And so it's what inspired this drawing today, and I wanted to share it with you. Once there was a man who lived by the sea. He lived a fair life with few grievances but little glory. One night, in a vivid dream, he was told of treasure to be found upon the shore. A messenger had come to him as he slept, cloaked in velvet and dripping in jewels, so shiny the man could almost see his reflection in them. Your path to riches will be a story of the ages, the messenger told him. Go in the light of the rising sun, upon the shores of the rolling sea, and trust that buried treasure will reveal itself to you. You shall provide for your family in unimaginable ways, and also enrich the lives of those you do not know. As soon as he awakened, the man went to the sea and walked along the shore. For more than a year, this was his practice, in sunshine and rainstorms, to walk barefoot through deep sand, his head hung low as he scanned the ground for buried treasure. Every shell he found was empty, save for strings of seaweed and grains of sand. Every coin he spotted was rusted and worn, worth no more than face value. He kept walking and waiting and watching. One day, his quiet walk at dawn was interrupted by an unfamiliar voice. He looked up to see a woman walking briskly toward him, waving wildly to get his attention. I have seen you out my window many mornings, she told him, and I must know what it is you're looking for. The man felt panic rising in him. He could not tell this perfect stranger the nature of his pursuits, for she might begin looking too, and steal his yet unfound treasure. He had not even told his wife or daughters the real reason for his morning walks, for fear that they might laugh at his dream or discourage him from continuing on. His dream was his secret, as was the treasure it promised. It is not for you to know, he told the woman and continued walking. She was not satisfied, for she was burning with curiosity and was now irritated by his secrecy. She pleaded with him, insisting she was trustworthy. She followed behind him, guessing aloud what he was looking for. Something lost, something living, something ancient. The more she talked, the more annoyed the man grew. Leave me alone, he snapped. Right now, all I want is some peace and quiet. This angered the woman, who wanted nothing more than to know his story. If that is what you want, she replied, and all I want to know is what you are looking for, then I'll walk with you and talk to you until you tell me. Once you do, I'll have my answer and will leave you here so you can have your peace and quiet. The man walked for miles, and the woman kept pace. She talked while he fumed. Her voice cut through his concentration. Her stories clouded his thoughts, and her opinions clashed with his own. He refrained from picking up shells or coins so as not to clue her in to his daily mission. He grew increasingly unfocused. Not only could he not pay attention to what was beneath his feet, but he felt hot in the sun and small beside the ocean. For the first time in all of his walks, he felt weary. Finally, he threw up his hands and shook his fist. "You win. I cannot focus with you here," he said sternly to the woman by his side. "Then tell me what it is you're looking for," she said eagerly. "I'm searching for treasure," the man sighed, and reluctantly told her of his dream and the message he'd received. The woman hung on to his every word, fascinated by his story. "But it could have simply been a figment of your imagination," she replied, wide-eyed. "Why did you believe the message?" "Because I awakened with the power of it pulsing through me," he replied. "So, you seek the unknown without fail, every day." The woman almost whispered this, entranced by the notion of it. "I do. For what if the treasure appears on the day I give up?" The man noticed, as he spoke, that his fatigue was fading. Telling this perfect stranger about his dream and answering her questions stirred renewed energy in him. "But isn't it monotonous?" the woman asked. "To walk the same beach at the same time every day?" Her inquisitiveness seemed genuine, and the man could feel his prior irritation with her lifting from his heart. "To the contrary," he replied. "Every walk is different. The sun never looks the same rising up over the sea, and every morning the sea places new sand beneath my feet. There are days when it feels a little like a dream. To be one with the sea and sky, to feel as though the birds are singing just to me. Even though I have not found my treasure, I feel richer for having taken the walk." The woman stood in silence, soaking in his words. "Thank you for sharing it with me," she finally said. "I will cherish this walk with you." "And I," the man said, "am pleasantly surprised I can say the same to you." And with that, the woman left the beach. Standing in the peace and quiet, the man felt lighter somehow, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He headed home, emboldened by sharing his story with a perfect stranger, and promptly revealed to his wife the real reason for his walks at dawn. She did not laugh or scoff, as he had feared, but encouraged him to continue. At least he was getting fresh air daily, she said, and at best, his dream might come true one day. Weeks passed, and the man continued his daily walks at sunrise alone until one morning, when he arrived at the beach just before dawn, he noticed the silhouettes of 3 boys standing near the sea. They ran toward him. "Excuse me, sir," said one of the boys. "Are you the dreamer?" He was taken aback and looked at them quizzically. The second boy asked, "Are you the man who follows his dream each day without fail?" The man felt his heart skip a beat. "Perhaps," he said slowly. "But how could you know of me?" "Everyone knows of you," the third boy answered enthusiastically. "We have all heard the story of the woman who walked with you once and was forever changed. She calls you the dreamer and tells of your wisdom, but not your whereabouts. So we have been searching for you." One of the boys held out a small bag. "We bring a small offering, hoping you might let us walk with you too." The man loosened the velvet cord which kept the cloth bag closed and peeked inside. There were 2 glistening coins, 3 fresh oranges, and a handful of sweets his children would love. Treasures! Sheer delight and awe pulsed through his veins, and he laughed out loud. He began to walk and gestured to the boys, inviting them to follow. The boys rushed to his side and showered him with questions as they walked through the sand, curious about patience and purpose, faith and dreams. "We are rich," they exclaimed at the end of the walk, delighted by the insights they had gained and eager to share with others. The man took the bag of treasures home and, quite amused by the way in which his dream had come true, told his wife what had happened. Over dinner that night, their family delighted in the small bag of treasures. "To following our dreams," the man said, raising his glass. The next morning the man awakened before dawn, as had become habit for him. Instinctively he headed down to the beach, despite having already seen his dream come to fruition. When he arrived, he was surprised to find 6 people waiting on the beach, each carrying a knapsack of small treasures, jewels and gems, coins and treats. They walked with him as the awakening sky burned orange and sparkled lavender. Each morning after, the crowd grew, following in the man's footsteps, listening to his stories, and offering tokens of their appreciation. "We have more good fortune than I could ever have imagined," his wife gasped as he arrived home with more gifts. "What did you say to that woman that made such an impression?" she wondered. "I do not know," he admitted. "I only shared the truth of my journey and the treasures I'd already found in it. In fact, I had been worried she would take my dream and run with it." His wife smiled and said, "Well, thank goodness she did." And that, my friends, is the story of the man who lived by the sea. The most obvious part of the story, most beneficial interpretation, is about taking your dreams and being willing to share them with others. Because it is with others that things can grow and expand beyond our imagination. No one does things alone. And you notice in the story that the man was hesitant to tell the woman, for fear that she would start searching for the treasure too. And I think a lot of us suffer that same feeling, where we're scared to tell others what we're doing out of fear that they might chase after our dreams, our purpose. And that does seem reasonable in some ways, because a lot of people in the world are very competitive, and some people will chase after your dream. This part also reminds me of a portion of the Bhagavad Gita, and this isn't a direct quote, but Krishna talks about how it's better to do your own dharma poorly than to do someone else's perfectly, or to live your own dharma imperfectly than to live someone else's dharma perfectly. It also makes me think that whenever we stray off path and try something that's really not meant for us, that enthusiasm, that tenacity, that ability to withstand the storm, like the guy was out there every day, sunshine, rainstorms, for a year or more, without fail. And when we try to achieve something that's not meant for us, we don't have the willpower. We don't have that ability to show up every single day without fail and to continue on. We don't have that faith and that hope motivating us to keep going. Another part of this story makes me think of Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, where she talks about morning pages, showing up every single day. And even if you don't know what to write, just write something. She talks about how this showing up every day at the same time and being willing to write opens the gates somewhat in your mind or consciousness for a muse of some sort to come in. Something will come about, that it will help you in some way. And that guy without fail was there every day at dawn, without fail. And it just so happened that his muse and opportunity was a chance for him to be truthful and honest with someone. And it just so happens that when he was truthful and honest with the lady, he felt a renewed sense of energy for his purpose, for his dreams. And that makes me also think about whenever we share our dreams and we talk about our dreams, when we're comfortable to do so with the other person, it does feel like a renewal of energy. We get excited. We get re-energized. We light up when we talk about the things that are important to us and that we are passionate about. There seem to be, to me anyway, so many layers to this story. The more that I read it, the more that I think about it, the more that I see. But this story also kind of overlaps with regular, normal people. And I say that hesitantly because, like, one of the people that pop into my mind is Oprah. And I know some of you would think, oh, Oprah's not normal. She's like a superstar. And she is out of this world. But she's still human. And she overcame a lot of challenges. But she was consistent in her faith and in her purpose and in her determination. And it was her dream. Her dream to be on TV. Her dream to talk to people through the television, talk show, on the news. And she didn't let anything deter her from that. Or if it did, it was only for a short time. And she was able to pick herself back up and keep moving forward. And that, I feel like, is the defining difference between someone who lives out their dream and someone who never gets to achieve it. Yes, fear holds a lot of people back. Fear stops a lot of people from ever getting started. So we may not ever even know what their dreams are because they never start. But when things get hard and they get rocky and they get bumpy and they throw us off our course and we want to stop, but we choose to keep going anyway. And we choose to show up again every single day and to put ourselves out there. Our opportunities begin to grow more and more and more. And just like in the story, the man could have stopped after that day with the boys, the first 3 that showed up. But he didn't. He went again and again. And every day that crowd grew larger, that treasure grew larger. Another thing I want to point out about the story is that he also was very aware of his surroundings every morning that he walked. He was able to really contemplate the benefits that he was gaining from these walks without the jewels and the gems and the money, the treasure. He noticed the little things, the difference in the sand, the colors of the sky, how each morning was different and held a different message, a different feel in the air. He was aware, fully engaged in the experience. He wasn't just out there hyper-focused on, I gotta find treasure, I gotta find treasure, I gotta find treasure, and then ignoring everything else. He was very in tune with the moment. He was present. So this story, like I said, felt like it had so many layers. It was a story about hope and our dreams and helping us to release our fears about chasing them, encouraging us to be open and honest and telling other people our dreams, sharing it with the world. Sometimes that's all that another person needs, like the first woman who showed up. She just needed to hear his dream. She needed to hear that he didn't need evidence, that he just felt it within him, and was willing to put himself out there every day searching for it. He believed, he had faith, he had hope. He had something to hang on to, something to motivate him every day. And that inspired her. This also reminds me of a time in my life, not long after I was diagnosed with cancer. And when I was first diagnosed, I went through a roller coaster ride, waves of emotion. There was moments of fear that I was going to die. Moments of regret that I had lived my life the way I had. Because I had noticed that I was living my life according to other people, and specifically according to two, I guess, role models at the time. These two women were lovely women, don't get me wrong, but had very different ideas of what my life should look like and be like and breathe like. I was so angry. And eventually I decided that from that moment on, I was going to live life my way. And I really wasn't going to care what other people thought. No matter how much time I had left, I was just going to do things the way I wanted to do them. And this caused a lot of problems, as you can imagine. It wasn't that I was a bad person or doing anything wrong. It just clashed with what they believed I should be doing and how I should be living. Eventually, we ended up moving away from the place because while I could slowly start to heal from this, I was never going to be able to fully heal. My environment was not conducive to my healing and to me being who I am. So we left and we moved 6 hours away. And since we have lived here, it's been 5.5 years, I have slowly began to heal pieces of myself, slowly moving in the direction of my true dreams, which is to do art. Some of the things that we do are unconventional, but nothing that hurts other people. And I noticed that since we've moved here, maybe the things that we enjoy and that we like and who I am isn't so unconventional. Because I have found similar people with similar interests, similar beliefs, and it not being so so critical and so demanding for me to be different here. But when we first got here, and I went to the bank to open up our bank account here, I met with one of the women who was helping me, and we sat in her office, and she asked why we were here. And this spun into a 3-hour conversation about my experience through cancer and how I had been living my life up until that moment trying to please other people. And that now, at that time, I wanted to live my life. When we get this one life, and the only thing that it comes down to is that we follow what makes us happy, what brings us joy. We're not hurting other people. We're not doing mean things, but we're following what brings us joy. After I left the bank that day, I kind of felt silly for taking up 3 hours of her time, but appreciative that she listened to me go on and on. And then a month later, I get a card in the mail. That woman was leaving the bank. And she wanted to thank me because I encouraged her to chase her dream. She wanted to be a cook on a barge and get to travel, make delicious food, and live her life. And that's what she went to do. So I hope you enjoyed this story about the man who lived by the sea. I hope it helps you and encourages you. And if you gain any insights, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.